Sometime in the nondescript future, humanity terraformed and colonized the planet Mars, which apparently was super duper easy once we overcame our tribalistic nature. But as Mars grew more technologically advanced, eventually surpassing the Earthlings back home, the Earthlings in question decided to give the whole tribalism thing another go, kicking off an all-out space war. This space war between Earth and a newly independent Mars lasted generations and killed billions, until the survivors eventually realized that maybe an insecurity complex isn't worth the mass interplanetary extinction of all of humanity. Ideally, they would have reached that conclusion a little bit earlier, but hey, they got there in the end and called a ceasefire. Now back to being friends, the Earthlings and Martians did what all friends do and underwent a series of severe genetic modifications to celebrate. This resulted in the Star People, a new species of humanity handcrafted with tender love and care to be perfectly modified for space colonization. And of course, amid their many modifications, by far the most important was the advent of their grass skirts. Impeccable fashion sense aside, these stellar explorers were able to terraform and colonize countless planets all across the galaxy. During their travel, they no doubt discovered many strange and interesting things, but perhaps the strangest and most interesting were the fossils on a particular alien world. Amidst the remains of countless unfamiliar creatures was this weird-looking bird thing with gnarly claws, believed to be a direct descendant of this weird-looking bird thing with gnarly claws. The bird in question is a long-extinct dinosaur that evolved back on Earth. Problem is, Earth is currently several hundred light years away. So how'd this thing get here? While some people assume that Jesus must have put it there, the leading theory was that a group of intelligent, ancient aliens must have abducted some of Earth's animals and left them all over the galaxy for some reason. But regardless, humanity didn't know what to expect, so they armed themselves for a potential conflict. But unfortunately, nothing could have possibly prepared them for the giant evil space bugs that were about to wreck their day. The Ku are a bunch of sociopathic butterflies with a passion for genetic malpractice and years of experience. And not only that, but they're just plain rude. I mean, when they meet humanity for the first time, they don't say hello, they don't shake their hands, they don't even ask their names. Instead, they just horribly mutate their feeble forms into a series of terrible monstrosities. Such as the Worm People, a group of humans forced to burrow through the dirt of a sun-baked planet. You know, kinda like a worm. Then we have the Lopsiders and the Tempters, both of which are just kinda sad. But the trophy for saddest guy has got to go to the Colonials. Descendants of a particularly resilient group, they were able to defend themselves against 2 subsequent attacks, but were overpowered by the 3rd. As punishment, not only were they transformed into a living, breathing sewage system, but they were forced to keep their eyes and wrinkly brains so they could fully process what they were forced to do. Yeah, I think the Q needs to see a therapist. But by that same token, a lot of post-humans were actually taking it pretty easy, such as the hedonists, who were used as luxury pets and given a plentiful garden planet to reproduce and play on. Or the mantelopes, who were not only allowed to keep their intelligence, but also given an incredible photographic memory, essentially being used as a biological scheduling program. And believe me, I know I'm about to get yelled at in the comments for putting these undeniably tragic figures in the taking it easy camp, but I'd still say that being sad and bored is better than getting hunted down by other humans or being an actual literal toilet. Meanwhile, we have the Spacers, a group of interstellar yogis that from the looks of things spend a lot of money on hair gel. Surprisingly, despite their somewhat unsettling appearance, these anime cosplayers are the only human survivors of the Q's millennia-long campaign, hiding out in desolate space stations and hollowed-out asteroids as their bodies adapted to their weightless conditions. But all was not lost for the humans that failed to escape, for shortly thereafter, keeping true to their sociopathic tendencies, the Q packed up and left without so much as a see you later, leaving the countless ruined humans to fend for themselves. Without the constant supervision of the Q, many post-humans were driven to extinction, such as the Striders, who were, tragically, slaughtered by a bunch of giant chickens. And those who survived were forced to evolve, oftentimes regaining their intelligence in the process. Remember the Worm People? Well, they got an upgrade, and now they're the Snake People. A few other examples include the Pterosapiens, the Killer Folk, and a personal favorite of mine, the Tool Breeders. Having evolved underwater, they were unable to invent fire or electricity, so instead they bred their livestock to serve the same purpose. For example, an octopus that uses its color-changing skin as a television screen. And if that's a little too crazy for you, then I guess you better skip ahead, because it's about to get a whole lot crazier. You see, when they eventually got sick of their homeworld, they just grew a spaceship out of animal parts and then flew away inside of a living spaceship. It's like a cow, but instead of producing milk, it pokes holes in the ozone layer. Well, you know, more so than usual. Then there's the asymmetrical people, who were specifically designed by their lopsided ancestors to explore the stars. In response, they ruthlessly slaughtered their creators for no discernible reason, which is, kinda evil? I mean, the Altabaros community is always talking about how terrible the Gravital and the Coup are, but what about these absolute goobers that killed their parents just because they were kinda ugly? Where's the justice? Anyway, Adolf Jr. over here wasn't the only post-human exploring the stars. In truth, the vast majority had left their homeworlds in pursuit of new horizons. Along the way, they made contact with one another and made something of an intergalactic alliance. Some post-humans, like the aptly named Bug-Facers, opted out of this alliance, but the rest opted in, thrusting humanity into an unparalleled golden age. But off on some desolate planet roamed the Ruin Haunters, and while they may look like your average emerald-loving civilian, don't be fooled, for these ruins they so adamantly haunt are the intact remains of ancient Star People technology. These untouched tools of mass destruction allowed their immature society to become exceedingly powerful, and before you could say Two Electric Boogaloo, they had completely abandoned their villager bodies and taken on a threatening mechanical form. Now called the Gravitals, they steamrolled the rest of the galaxy, with an unsafe blend of sun-blocking antics and atmospheric bombing. When the dust had finally settled, the Bug-Facers were the only survivors, I guess thanks to their shared passion for xenophobia. Instead, the Gravitals simply mutated their feeble forms into a series of terrible monstrosities. Again. But while the Coup mostly turned their victims into actually viable animals, the Gravitals used their genetic mastery to create twisted, living art exhibits. Such as a creature whose limited speech allowed it to sing Taylor Swift's 2014 hit single Shake It Off, and nothing else. Truly a fate worse than death. The only post-humans completely untouched by this calamity were the Asterimorphs, descendants of the Floaters, but unlike last time, they were not in hiding. No, the Gravitals were actually afraid of the Asterimorphs, who were even more technologically advanced than they were. But eventually, they decided to go to war with them anyway, and were, unsurprisingly, defeated. Now, as the de facto strongest humans, the Asterimorphs did their best to put everything back in place by designing habitable worlds for these sentient karaoke machines to call home. They even installed some safeguards to ensure no one would ever enslave humanity ever again by designing a terrestrial version of themselves called the Terrestrials, to watch over their newly crafted planets. Did this plan sometimes backfire? For sure. Did the Terrestrials occasionally ignore their purpose and enslave a bunch of people? Yeah, for sure. But beyond a couple hiccups here and there, humanity was finally able to march on with relative peace until they had eventually grown powerful enough to hunt down and exterminate the Coup. So maybe not that peaceful, but peaceful enough. Anyway, that's all I have for you guys today, but if you like this video, you'll probably enjoy some of my other projects, such as this alien biology series I have where I design a bunch of intelligent aliens with the help of my community. In fact, if you're watching this video the day it comes out, then I'll be hosting a live stream tomorrow afternoon at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where you can help me design the aliens for the newest installment. But with that said, let's discuss last week's Florshe finders. In case you don't know, I hide these flowery little horse fellas in my illustrations and mention those who find them in the following video, such as Nonsensical Nonsense, Not Enough Memes, or Oh My Dearest Boy, who were each the first to find their respective Florshes. We also have Baby Shippy and Sagito Scrumpy, who were the first to find basically all of them. And finally, we have 404 Error, an old world champion who has finally come out of retirement to blow us all away with his eloquent words. Anyway, if you find any in this video, then let me know in the comments down below or on my Discord server. Links are in the description. And until next time, don't die. See you later.